I'm now 25, and at the time I was 16 or 17. My then boyfriend and two of our good friends decided to go camping in a small patch of woods next to a neighborhood that was being developed. This small patch of woods was roughly 900 feet across both ways. On the left side, if you were viewing it from the road, was the undeveloped neighborhood. There was no people living in the houses though. It was just mainly wood and no windows with some walls. And on the right side was about a mile long driveway that led up to a house a little over a half mile past a patch of woods. So we get our tent, fire pit, chairs. We set it up and we are relaxing. As it starts to get dark, when we hear an extremely loud screaming coming from a woman, maybe 400, 500 feet away. At first, there weren't any words we could make out, but then it was a help and a no. And the loudest, most terrifying scream was cut off mid-scream. We can't see through these trees, they're thick, and it's getting darker, so we get the fuck out. And we left all of our stuff behind. As we were walking back to the undeveloped neighborhood where we parked, you gotta keep in mind that the scream was coming from over that way of the woods. So we had to go near the long driveway to the road across the tiny bit of woods to get to our car. I'm immediately in the phone with the police, who are trying to tell me it was just a cat and he. Thanks, South Carolina. From where we were parked, we were facing the woods, and out of nowhere, a man comes out, dragging something in heavy sheets or something. He makes direct eye contact with me, and he starts coming towards us. The police pulled in right then, and the man ran as fast as he could. And as it turned out, he had killed the woman about 400 feet from where we were camping. I never knew if he was ever caught. This story happened a few years ago. I was in my early 20s and studying in Paris, France. I was going home from uni. I usually took a short bus ride and then walked the rest of the way. That day, I felt slightly uncomfortable, and I could sense some guy looking intensely at me. I was used to unpleasant, unsolicited gazes, but this time his gaze felt beastly. It's hard to explain why, but I just felt like a prey being stalked. I decided to get off the bus a few stops early. I wanted to avoid him, and I didn't want him to see where I usually get off. Like I learned in the movies, I waited until someone else pressed the button, and waited until the last moment to stand up and leave. I didn't notice him getting off the bus. Just as I was feeling the relief of having escaped an unfortunate situation, I looked over my shoulder, and there he was, a few meters behind. I had the distressing feeling his eye had just looked away the moment I turned. I walked into a shop, took my phone out, and pretended to be doing something. When I couldn't see him anymore, I left and made my way home as fast as I could. I kept looking back at the busy street. I zigzagged, I crossed the street at every crossing, and finally I started to believe that him getting off at the same stop as me was just a coincidence. When I reached my building, I looked back one last time, and there he was, his alarming gaze on me, smirking. I ran up to my apartment, climbing the stairs 4 at a time. I reached the top floor, squeezed through my door, locked it, and froze. My intercom was ringing. Don't ask me why, but I picked it up. I regretted it the moment I did. I could hear the opposite flat intercom ringing as well. He had pressed every button one by one, hoping that someone would open. But now, he knew my name. Gabrielle? Oh shit. I felt like a deer in the headlights. Frozen.
Open the door, please.
Said a pleading voice.
I just want to talk to you.
Somehow, I couldn't move or speak.
Come to the window.
He added.
Look at me. You'll see. I'm not a bad guy.
Something clicked. He wanted to locate my apartment in the building. I was not going to make that mistake. I hung up in shock. I waited by the door without moving for what seemed hours. When I finally managed to calm myself, I called my long-distance boyfriend. Call the police, he said immediately. Why didn't I call the police? I don't know. Today, it would be the first thing I would do. The fear of making a big deal out of something not important, perhaps. What an idiot I was. I called my best friend instead. I didn't want to feel alone. I told her all about it, and after a while I felt better. Safe. We started laughing, and suddenly, the intercom rang again. 2 hours had passed since I'd come home. I answered.
Gabriel,
Said the voice.
open please.
I still remember the chills I felt. He was still there. He was there all this time. I was silent, petrified. He was silent too, but I knew for a fact he was still there.
Gabriel, let me in. I'm so thirsty.
He said.
Just give me a glass of water.
This broke the tension, and I just hung up. Curled up in a corner, literally in recovery position, terrified. I waited. I was so scared to make a sound. I knew he couldn't hear me from the hall, but I was scared to even breathe. The intercom rang again. I didn't answer this time. I laid in my sofa and fell asleep in exhaustion. I heard the intercom ring one more time in the middle of the night. I woke up in the morning, afraid to even leave my apartment. I called my dad, who came to pick me up. There was no one in the hall, but there was a note in my mailbox.
Gabriel, I'm a nice guy. You should have opened to me.
We immediately went to the nearest police station. The police listened, and of course, told me that I should not hesitate to call them. My dad called a locksmith to install a digicode on the building door the same day, and wrote a message to each of my neighbors asking to not open the door to anyone they didn't expect. He sat in the cafe in front of my building with 2 friends every evening for more than a week. I never saw the stalker again. After this episode, I used a different route to and from uni every day. I kept my phone tightly in my hand and looked back every few meters. Today, I am still very observing of my surroundings. I never answer the door if I am not expecting someone. So, people, if you ever find yourself in any kind of uncomfortable situation, call the police. Don't be an idiot like me. Be safe, everyone.